Tonight we're going to be doing the sketch and wash with a Valentine's theme. And what I have done is created some images. Okay, I in my photography studio here at the house, I set it up so that there would be some fun Valentine's themed imagery that we can sketch and then use watercolor to wash into them. So this is one. This is actually an antique glass cordial, little cordial glass. So I'll show you right here. I have the glass. Oh, isn't that fun? It's like this beautiful pale yellow, but this is what you sip your sherry out of, right? And so I put some sweetheart candies in there, and that's one of the images that we have available to work with. Then I also lined up my sweethearts, the sweetheart candies. I don't know if you're aware of this, but sweethearts, these little candies, were developed in the USA, in America, up in the Northeast, in Massachusetts, I believe, by the Necco company, Necco. I don't know if y'all are familiar with the Necco candies, but they are in a roll, right? And they're little wafer candies. Well, that company, that confectioner company, came up with the concept for, oh yes, right, came up for the with the concept for sweethearts when one of the gentlemen, who there were two brothers that had the Necco company, and one of them developed a machine that could stamp onto the confections little messages. So that they started making these candies in 1901. So they've been around a long time, and they're a classic American Valentine candy, right? And then the company Necco went out of business and was purchased in the early 2000s, I think 2001. And so there's a new, or 1998 or something like that. So there's a new company now that does own the rights to Sweethearts, is the name, and the manufacturing of it. Now, there are other companies that make uh, heart stamped heart candies. This happens to be one of them. Another very famous American candy company, right? What is that? Brock's. So this is the Brock's company, and they make these big sweethearts like this. And so that's what I used to put in that little cup right there, in that cordial cup. So that was fun. And I actually already did the sketch on that right here. So that was, I used some colored markers, and then I did watercolors. So we're going to be playing around with that. And I'm going to be eating candy as we go. That's one of the benefits, right, of being the person that's running this thing. Here's your classic chocolates. So that's actually right here. I got that at my grocery store. Oh, happy Valentine's Day to all my Valentines that are here this evening. And so this is just your classic chocolates. Now, I've had them in the house where it's cold, so the even though it's warm outside and it's been cold at night, so you can see what happens. That whiteness is the oils from in the cocoa coming up to the surface. But you know what? It still eats the same, and it tastes delicious no matter what. So I do have this picture available. And when I say I have these pictures available, I have put these pictures on my website. So if you go to deetsart.com here, deetsart.com, and it turns into dsart.gallery, because that's the actual website, is dsart.gallery. But you can print these pictures off, because I have them in my latest blog article for the Valentine's party. So feel free to visit that blog post and then download these pictures and print them for yourself. Now, this is a little Demitasse set that I have, that is from originally from Japan. So beautiful little tray or saucer and cup, little teeny tiny for your fine espresso coffees, right? So I took something, these are so fun. These are for when it's cold out in February and you're going to have a hot chocolate. then instead of regular marshmallows, no, 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 you want heart-shaped pink marshmallows for in your hot chocolate. So right here, you've got the cup, the Demitasse cup, and some pink marshmallows in it. Oh my gosh, isn't that fun? It's so fun. I think that's one that we want to draw tonight. And then let me see. This one has chocolates on that same little saucer, right? That could act as a little dessert tray. And then I also, these are images that I took myself with the cups and the and goodies that I have here at my house. But then I also looked out online and found some other imagery on Morgfile and um, Pixabay. There are a whole bunch, Unsplash, there are a whole bunch of copyright free websites, right? So is this one pretty? This is cake. So that's with beautiful red icing. It says, I love you on it. Oh, so nice. And then my favorite Valentine's dessert is not chocolate, believe it or not. It is red velvet cake. Red velvet cake. I just love red velvet cake with the what? Cream cheese icing. Mwah, right? So that's another fun image that if you want to, we can do that. There's not as much color variation in something like this, so it's not as exciting to paint. It's more exciting to paint something that kind of challenges you, right? To do that. So I think let's see. I think we're probably going to start with the chocolate and then move to the colorful, the other colorful things. But something else that we can use tonight is pencils. So if you have your micron pens, if you have graphite pencils, we can do sketches with that. This is something that when I went to one of the art trade shows, the folks at Zebra. I don't know if you're familiar with Zebra, but Zebra is an art supply company, and they do lots of pens, pencils, and markers. Actually, so these are some of my colored markers. Let me see. I think this is a Zebra. Yep. See where it says Zebra right there? So this is a Zebra pencil. I have another of my favorite Zebra pencils here somewhere. Yeah. Is this a Zebra? Nope. Okay. Well, it's in here somewhere. I have so many. But these are really fun. They're called click art. So I don't know if you can see there, it says click art. The nice thing is it instead of having a cap to take off and possibly lose the cap, right? These are just clickets, and it has a nice small tip and comes in a rainbow of colors. So you can see here these colors, and this is what I used when I created this one, this drawing. So I was able to use yellow for the cup and then green for these green minty colored hearts, orange, pink, right? So it's kind of fun if you have some colored markers to use the colored markers for that. Then the other thing we're going to use is watercolors, right? And how do watercolors come? Watercolors come in what are called pans. So these are the watercolor pans. This is my Christy Rice set that I've shown you many times before. And I have added extra pans and colors to her set. So her set comes with 12. And then I have these little, I have a whole box like this of half pans. So what I showed you earlier that I'm going to do as a giveaway, these little half pans, I buy the half pans in a box empty like this. So you can, some people didn't know that was a thing, but yes, you can buy these. Like I have a big, big, big box of them here. And then you can fill them from your tubes of watercolor paint. So I had shown you earlier paint also. This is watercolor paint in a tube. So you can use it straight from the tube out of a palette or just a plate of some sort. squeeze your colors on. Most of the time, I like to do that when I'm in the studio because I like the juiciness of the paint right out of the tube. Uh, these are paints that you let them sit and dry, that you let them dehydrate, and then you just add water to the pans. The nice thing about having your paint in pans like this is that you can travel with it very easily. So you just close this up like that, and this is a little travel set. If I'm outside and I'm painting, there's a little loop at the bottom, and you put your middle finger in there like that, and then when you open this, it holds it in your hand so it won't flip out of your hand for painting outside. Now, she has in her kit and most others as well, when you find these aluminum watercolor sets, they'll have an area for color mixing, as well as she has in hers these little divots. Now, those little divots can also be used for color mixing, but I wanted more colors than the 12. So I took a lot of my own colors and I put them in here, like this light purple and this light green right here. That's what I used for the candies. So I put those in the little divots there, and that gives me just that many more colors to play with than just what she has in her set. Now, I also I mentioned that you can use a palette of some sort, which could just be a ceramic plate. You can go to your local thrift store and just get a plate. And that works. And I've done that. I actually found pallets for 20, ceramic pallets for 25 cents each at my church thrift store. Amazing. But this is one that I paid full price for it online. Meeden, the company Meeden makes a lot of these beautiful ceramic palettes. And so this is a great one for both water-based inks in here, as well as you can do your color mixing in a palette like this as well. So I have that one handy for tonight. And another thing is a pen, a sketch pen. So I learned from, and I will link her in the description of the video on YouTube when the video is over. Becky Cao, C-A-O. She's out in Vancouver in Canada. And I did some really fun sketch and wash classes with her. So urban sketching. And this is one of her favorite sketching pens. I put in it a permanent ink. So see where this says sketch ink? It's by Rohrer and let's see, Rohrer and Klingner. So Rohrer and Klingner, and I'll be sure to link that in the description of the video along with this. This is a Sailor Fude fountain pen. So I actually have a whole bunch of ink inside this fountain pen. It's perfect for on the go if you want to go somewhere, as opposed to my dip pens, which I adore. And I have lots of dip pens, but they're not very convenient to use on the road because you don't want to leave open ink on your table and possibly spill it, right? So this way you suck up the ink inside. I actually have something called a converter. So if you want to put your own ink into these pens, a fountain pen, you have to have something called a converter. So this is my converter that I put brown ink in. The nice thing about the Sailor sketch pens like this is that they have a different color at the bottom here for your different color inks. So you have a red one for red ink, a brown one for my brown ink, a black one for my black ink, a blue one for my blue ink, etc. So that's what I've done is gotten the brown one. And then I know when I look at the converter that it has brown ink in it. This is also nice because oftentimes a pen will have a clip on top and that can in your bag get separated. This one has a screw on top. And so it's not likely to separate and get ink all over the place. There I am. Now, you know that I love my Princeton brushes, and so I have my Princeton watercolor brushes here. This is the Velvet Touch rounds. But tonight I thought I would introduce you to Christy Rice's travel brush. So I just showed you Christy Rice's palette And this is Christy Rice, so cute in this little travel pouch. But this is her travel brush. Fantastic brush. Look at that. You see the tip on that? Oh, yeah. That's a fantastic brush. Love this brush. And so it goes together like this. And then that is a great brush to go also in your travel kit if you want to have a little sketch and wash set to take with you. This is a fantastic brush for that. And so we're also going to use that one tonight. Oh, it's a fabulous brush. Fabulous. Now, we're going to go ahead over top of the table. I hope you'll take an opportunity to check out those images that I was telling you about on my website, and maybe give me suggestions as to which one that you want to do. I was just going to start out very simply, simple sketch with the three chocolates right here, just to get warmed up, right? Because when you start a paint session, it's good to get warmed up. Then we'll move on to something more complicated like this. Ah, I can't wait to do this one. It's going to be so fun. All right. Now, the paper that I'm using is my workhorse paper. It's the Canson XL 140-pound watercolor paper. But uh, the one that the sketch that I did here, you'll notice it's a really big paper pad. So this is actually Arteza. I believe it's Arteza. Let's see. Yeah, it is the Arteza. Let's see, is it watercolor or mixed media? I think it's a mixed media pad. It's 110 pounds, but it'll take water. So it works great. These are when they have them 2 for 1 on their website, this is a great product to get your hands on. Plus, because it's mixed media, you can do a lot of other things with it too. But for tonight, we're going to be using the Canson XL watercolor paper because it'll take water more beautifully, right? So let's go ahead. We're going to go over top of the table and get started with our sketch and wash. So excited. So what I want to do is I want to start out with the chocolate. So I do actually have a brown marker. Actually, maybe I have a brown pencil. Let's start with like a brown pencil. There we go. Yes, I do. I have a Faber-Castell polychromos paper. Pencil. So this is just a regular wax pencil, like what we were using last week for our pencil drawings. And so I'm going to take this. Um, Most of the time, I like to work from life, meaning I like to actually take the chocolates and set them in front of me. And then you get a little more subtlety with the shadows and everything. But for right now, I'm actually going to eat a chocolate. And there we go. I'm going to eat that and we'll work from the picture, okay? Because it is possible to work from the pictures. Ooh, let's see what's in here. That was like a nougat, right? Lovely. All right. So I'm going to pick a pencil color that's close to the color of what I'm drawing. Okay. And I'm holding it up so I don't get glare. Plus, it's easier to see when it's up. I actually have underneath my table here one of those things that you put your documents on if you're typing to hold them up. And so normally I put my pictures on there because it holds the picture up and it makes it a better angle for looking at. Man, this chocolate is good, y'all. Um, so the nice thing about working with a pencil instead of working with a marker is if I make a mistake, I can erase it. But let's challenge ourselves here. We are sketching and having fun. This is not about perfection, right? Last week was a little more perfection. Today is a little more fun. So we've got our 3 chocolates here. The cool thing about the one chocolate is it's actually shaped like a heart. And so what I'm going to do first is just the top of the heart. And you can see the image. So if you want to follow along, if you have a pencil, if you have some watercolors, then I encourage you to follow along. We're just doing this right here. Notice that as I'm sketching, I like to do short movements. instead of doing a continuous. Okay, it actually kind of goes around like that. There we go. That's what it looks like on top. And then it kind of comes down here because it's 3D, right? And we've got some 3D-ness here. And then it comes around like this and it gets wider over here. Oh, that comes straight down. Ah, see? So I'm actually gonna erase that because this comes straight down from the edge like this and then around here. And then this comes around like this and into here. There we go. So that's the 3D version of the heart. We're just sketching here. We're just having fun, right? Well, let me get this up so I can see if there are any comments or questions. Okay, cool. Um, not true to form, but I'm not trying to do that. I just want to have some fun. That's what I thought I'd do. It's Super Bowl evening, and so let's just have a good time, right? So the other one starts over here, the rectangular chocolate that I'm halfway through right now. So that goes about like that. Let's see, there's this here. It's going to come about like that. And then it comes in a little bit at an angle. So this line right here is an angle this direction. It's not straight. So, and then from there, we kind of go out like this. And then it comes over and there's actually a little dip in the middle. And then we've got another line here. Interesting. What I like about this top line is that there's a lot of white. There's a lot of white along here. Do you see the white along here? That was from the light coming in from outside. So I like that. We'll have to play with that. And then we're going to come down like this. And it comes kind of over like this. And then it comes splays out just a little bit here. And then like that. Oh, there's my chocolate. Okay. Actually comes down a little bit more like that. Okay. And then this one is like a bonbon, right? A swirl. It's going to have either a cherry in it. I like the cherries myself. Do y'all like the cherry bonbons? Love those. So this is basically at the top, it's a circle like this. So I'm going to start it at the top with a circle, and then it comes down like this, sort of short, and then around the outside. There are a couple of little ripples in it as it comes around. And then this side comes around and out. There we go. So we can sort of get a 3D feel for it. And there are a couple of swirls here. All right. We're not being engineers tonight and trying to get it, perfect. We're just sketching and learning how to sketch, how to see. We're learning how it's going to look once we start coloring it in. This is a light chocolate and these are dark chocolate, right? Also, you'll notice in the picture, there's a strong white light right here, here, and here on that. So we need to remember to not put paint in those areas, to leave those areas with no paint in them so that we can have a shimmer, a shine, a shine. Can you all still see that? If I prop it over there, I hope so. Oh, I have to drink some water after that chocolate. Mm. Okay, good. Yes, you can still see them in the picture. Perfect. Now, how do we get brown? Let's take a look here. I'm going to set aside my Princeton brushes for right now. And we're going to go with the travel brush from Christy Rice. And what do I do before I start with watercolor? I get my brush wet. I like to start with a wet brush. You're not going to be able to rehydrate this paint unless you wet your brush. Okay. And then you don't want water sitting on the ferrule here. This is called the ferrule. And then this is called the handle. But the part that holds the hair is called the ferrule. And you don't want excess water sitting on the ferrule because otherwise, when you tip your hand up, bloop, a big blop of water can come down. And then that's not nice. So there is a brown in here. And I'm just going to put it up here for you to see. Nope, you can't see that. Okay, so what I'm going to do then is I'm going to put it in here so that you can see it. Oh, that is a beautiful chocolate. Beautiful chocolate color. So to me, this color straight out of the pan from Christy Rice looks like a lighter brown. It's kind of like a burnt sienna color, I would call it. And that to me looks like the lighter chocolate. Hey, Dragon Hoarder, roar! Welcome in, welcome in. We are just sketching and doing some watercolor on candies, chocolate candies right now, but we have heart-shaped pink marshmallows also to work with, which will be a lot of fun. So I was saying that in the Christy Rice watercolors here, that the brown is actually kind of like a burnt sienna, the color of it. And so it's got a really nice chocolatey feel to it. And I'm going to make sure I put plenty of water in it because my first layers, I don't want to be too dark. I can go darker, but I don't want to be too dark in the beginning. So, whoop, see, there's a lot of darkness there. And so I just added a whole bunch of water to it. Remember, there's some excess white we need to leave over here. So I'm going to leave a big white spot. And right now we're just doing a quickie wash. We can always come back and define our darks later. I just want to get the general color in here. Now, the interesting thing is when you look at the picture, there's actually a light area right underneath here. So I'm going to pick up my watercolor and I'm going to leave a little tiny bit right there. And also this part right here is a little bit lighter, so I just added a whole bunch more water. And you can always go back and pick up some of the color with your paper towel, and that will also lighten the color in the area. All right, so let's pick up a little bit of that so it's light. And then we'll finish dropping in our color here. So when I work with watercolor, I'm always working with layers, right? So I'm going to put down some colors, usually my lightest color, and then I'll build up the darkness from there. When I taught a couple weeks ago, when we did the acrylic painting, it was the opposite. We were putting the darks in first and then putting the lights on top of it because acrylic will cover like that. But watercolor, for the most part, is transparent. So we can't make it work like that. So I'm going to go with three different versions of chocolate. So we're going to do the milk chocolate here, a dark chocolate here, and then this one will be sort of an in-between chocolate, okay? So because this one will be in between, I'm going to start it as the lighter color. But there's a big light spot right here where I don't want to put any paint because I want to preserve the white. And so that's usually what I'll do is I just mark out that white spot. And then right now I'm just putting the rest of the color in. Now that's obviously a little too light for this one. So let's grab a little more color and just throw a little bit more color in here. Now the neat thing about this chocolate is, do you see the swirls on the chocolate right there? So the swirls are causing there to be lighter and darker spots over here on the side. So that's why I put in a lighter color, and now I'm just creating some swirls with it. And we'll come in and redefine that in a little bit. Okay, bring in a little bit more dark. What you'll find is if it's already wet, it's hard to darken an area. So you just have to put a little bit down and move on and come back and darken it. Okay, so we're going to do this luscious, luscious dark chocolate. So how are we going to get it darker? Let's put some of the burnt sienna in there, like that. And we want it to be darker. So there are a couple of things we can do. For the most part, I try to avoid black. Most of the time I use black when I want to get a gray of some sort. Um, Instead, I like to use purples and blues. So I've got in here this ultramarine blue. So I can grab some of the ultramarine blue and you'll see what happens is it darkens the color a lot. You see that? So now I've got a dark brown, more like an umber. Oh, it looks like on YouTube. Yeah, you can see the color there. So what I'm doing is I'm grabbing some ultramarine blue and I'm putting it in with that burnt sienna. And now I have an umber. And the umber will give you a darker chocolate feel. See there? Just like that. This is the kind of thing I do when I'm color mixing wise, when I'm doing pine cones or things like that. Let's make sure we've got dark in the middle right there. We've got a little bit of darkness. Part of this is observation, right? You need to be looking at your subject and looking back at your artwork, looking at your subject, looking at your artwork. Okay, and it's pretty dark along here. And then, now it is true that you can come back in here and you can lift some color out, but it depends on your paper. Some papers are better at allowing you to lift the color out than others. So this is not one that's really, yes, you can lift, but it's not a great lifter. Now I'm noticing on this dark chocolate, there's a little more red in it. The dark chocolate is slightly redder. So there's a magenta here and a red. So I can grab some red and throw it in there. And then we're going to put that down. Yeah. So this is, it's dark, but it's a little bit redder. And I'm going to leave that whiteness there because that's where the light is hitting it, right? So now this side over here is darker. So I'm going to go back to grabbing some of the ultramarine. So this is what I do when I'm painting. I don't necessarily make a big blob of color. I go back and forth between lightning, darkening. Add a little bit of this, add a little bit of that, and you'll see that I contaminate my colors all the time. So this red now has some brown on it, but no muss, no fuss. I don't mind. It's fine. It's fine. Let's come on over here and darken this. The nice thing is, while if you're working in multiple areas like this, your other areas have time to dry, and then you can come back and put more layers on top. So let's look back at this one, and I can see a dark area. I already have dark on my brush, right? I see a dark area there. I see a dark area here. It's pretty dark over here. Okay. Just building some dimension there, right? There's some darkness right here. So I actually, on this chocolate, I already have 3 colors coming. Okay. And then I'm going to do a little bit more of this, like that. There's this beautiful swirl on top of this one. There we go. So I want to get the feel of the chocolate. You move your brush in the direction that the chocolate's going. So if the chocolate is swirling, go ahead and move your brush in a swirly motion. So this is coming this way, like this. Swirling a little bit more like this. And in here, there's some more swirling like this. So like I said, this is Christy Rice's travel brush, if you weren't here earlier. It's the Christy Rice travel brush. So there's another layer. And we're just trying to get the look and the feel of the swirl going. Now, I'll be glazing over top of that, meaning I've laid down some color, but then I'll be coming back over top of it and putting some more color, a lighter version of the color. Once it's dry, if you drop in a lighter version of the color, those undercolors will, the swirls will still show. So let's see if it's dry enough for me to do that. So you can kind of get a feel for it. So you can begin to see that the swirls are still there, but the you've glazed over top of it with another color. And it's usually better if you wait till it dries. But hey, you know, I was in a hurry. Okay. I usually keep a paper towel in my hand because when I use the water, I like to what? Clean the ferrule, right? I still keep water in the tip, but I clean the ferrule. Okay, let's come back to this one over here. There's a little deeper area in the middle, and of course, this area down here is deeper. So that's the power of observation. Let's pull some of this. Sometimes you don't even need to modify the color. It's just layering that will darken it. So if I put another layer of the same color on here, it'll begin to darken. It just takes longer to do that, to do multiple layers like that. So I am gonna darken. No, I just grabbed some of the ultramarine blue. So here's the brown from the Christy Rice kit, the ultramarine blue to darken it just a little bit. Oh, let's grab some red too. Why not? Why not? Just for fun. Because I'm an artist and I'm allowed, right? I'm allowed to do that. And then it's kind of a little bit darker over around here. So these are the darker areas. There we go. And right now, it may look like a hot mess, but your artwork, as does mine, is going to go through something we call the ugly stage. So do not fret. It happens to all of us because you can come in and refine it as you go. If you look at this heart, you're actually going to see darkness here and darkness here. And that's why I did that. I'm not going to paint this oil that's come to the top. I'm not going to do that. Now I can see it's like kind of dark over here. So I'm going to grab more of that ultramarine and get a darker color. And then I'm going to put some of the dark right along the edge here. Often you'll see that right next to the light. So for instance, here, there's a little light edge, and either side of the light edge is dark. A dragon hoarder says, "Oh my gosh, I call it the ugly stage too." There's always the ugly stage. So, you know, people who are new to art don't realize that their art at some point is going to look ugly. And so they fret, right? They fret about it and then they give up on their piece and they set it aside. Oh, you know, I can't stand it. And you set it aside. It's like, no, 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 no. I mean, yes, you can set it aside and then look at it with fresh eyes the next day, but just know that you're in the ugly phase and you know, there's more to come. Keep at it. And then you'll come out the other side and it'll be gorgeous, right? Beautiful. Oh. Okay, so here I'm adding a bunch of water to that light brown that was in here, and I'm just going over that whiteness. So I want this area to be lighter than everything else, the highlight along there, but I don't want it to be white. So I just added a glaze, lots of water, little bit of color. Okay, let's do some of the glaze right here too. Same thing. I don't want the white to be stark white. I want the white to have a little bit of color to it. And so let's just hit those light areas so it stays looking light. Now, this is very rich and dark down along the edges. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put some of the brown in there. I'm going to grab some of the um, ultramarine ultramarine blue, but now I'm going to grab just a little bit of purple. So a lot of times when I work with shadows, I'm working with purples. So I want to be sure you can see this. It looks like on, but I have like 1,000 things to put to the side to finish later. Dragon hoarder. So do I. Birds of a feather, honey, birds of a feather, right? So what I wanted to show you is here, this is called permanent purple or permanent violet. It's a deep, 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 dark purple. She has a purple in her set. This is the Christy Rice set. This is a red purple. So Salmon's Girl says, I thought I was bad. LOL. You know, having a lot of unfinished pieces. No, it comes with the territory, right? It's like squirrel, squirrel, especially with art. You know, there's so many things that you can do that I'm pulled in every other direction. So the purple that she has in her set here tends toward red, right? Because how do we make a purple? We use a blue and a red, and we mix those together. So this purple in the set tends toward the red. And when I'm mixing browns, I like a purple that tends toward the blue, because what else was I doing? I was using the ultramarine blue over here, wasn't I, to mix a brown, a dark brown, like an umber. So for shadows, oftentimes I will grab this deep dark purple and use it with my browns to get my areas of like darker, more intense darkness. So let's do that. I'm grabbing a little bit of purple because oftentimes your shadows will look gray or they'll look purple. So, hey, Kelly School, I'm going to do a monthly unfinished art raid train. Ah, what a great idea, Salmon's Girl. Oh my gosh, how fun will that be? You send your unfinished piece to another artist for a collaboration. That will be so fun. So fun because I have plenty. Oh, it's a dragon hoarder idea. Ah, you are welcome. That is such an amazing idea because we all have oodles of unfinished work. Faux show. Okay. So right now I've got a hard line in that bottom area of the darkest dark. Do not dismay. The beautiful thing about watercolor is that you can come back with a little bit of water and soften that. So don't worry. The fact that it is so dark and there's a straight line. It's like, no, there's not a straight line in reality. Okay, I'm darkening the center, right? I have that purple in there. So I'm laying in my darkest darks. Now I don't want to rub too much because I'm noticing that it's trying to pull the color that's on there back off. And that does happen. Okay, so I'm getting some water in here. I'll invite you. Yay! Thank you. Oh, that'd be so much fun because like you, I have 50 million pieces. So now I just have water in my brush. I've taken all the color out. And you can go along the edge here and just feather it. Feather, feather, feather. And soften that edge and bring the color, help the color to blend and bring it up. So that's how you can get yourself a gradient like that. Sometimes you have to do it several times and you have to watch for how wet your surfaces are. You don't want to do it when everything's too wet because then you're going to get too much of a gradient. Like everything will just go white. There we go. So I'm starting to get a gradient. All right, fun. And then let's go back to this heart. It's really dark down in here. So let's just grab some of that darkest dark and bring it over here. This is actually the darkest area. Nah, it's not so dark anymore. Okay, so I'm grabbing some purple. I'm grabbing some brown, a little bit more purple, little more of the ultramarine blue, a little more brown. There we go. Now it's coming up darker. That's how you can work with skin tones too. So this same concept that I'm using right now and the colors that I'm using, you can go back and forth between those purples, the ultramarine blue, your browns, your yellows, like the, this isn't yellow ochre, this is a cream, and these two over here, like a light pink and a light orange. You can work with those colors and get skin tones, beautiful skin tones. Okay, so let's get a little bit more dark up in here because it kind of goes like that. Kind of goes like that. It's kind of dark right along there. Okay, cool. The interesting thing that I'm going to share with you right now, listen up, y'all. Sometimes on camera, your piece looks different than when you're actually looking at it. So if you're making illustrations that you're going to take a photograph of and then make reproductions, you don't have to get your piece to look perfect to your eye. You have to get your piece to look perfect to the camera. And sometimes you can adjust and play with the depth of color and the tone, whether it's, you know, more yellow or more blue in the background. So don't feel like your sketches always have to be perfect. You can, that's called post production. You can mess around with them in post. And like I'm looking at it in the camera right now, I can see the projection of it. And so I'm like, oh, this looks better on camera than it does to my eye right now. It's been stopping me from making prints, right, Dragon Hoarder? Yeah, yeah. So don't fret. Do some of the sketching and messing around with your values. And like I said, this looks a lot better on camera than it does in person right now. And if you're doing prints, that's what matters. So try setting yourself up a camera that's projecting so that you can see it. Give yourself, if you're on Whatnot, create a private show, which is for you to do your testing, but create a private show and then look at it on your computer. So cast from your phone, but look at your artwork on the computer because that's what I'm doing right now. I'm looking across the room and my computer's over there and I can see what you're seeing. And so that's why I'm saying I know this looks better to you because it's coming through the camera than it does to me. Oh, let's soften these lines. So what I just have a wet brush, no color in it, right? And I'm just it's fully dry, so it makes it a little bit easier to do that softening. Some people like to soften when it's wet. Some people like to soften when it's dry. I do a little bit of both. There we go. So because I want those edges to just sort of feather, right? Feather into there. Now, again, this is white and this is white. I preserved the white, but it doesn't need to be white, white. I spy Christy Rice. Yes. Hey, Meg 500. Welcome in. Welcome in. Yes, this is the Christy Rice #6 round Joy Chaser brush that comes in this cute little travel bag. And then this is my Christy Rice palette. So her colors, her 12 colors, plus I've customized it with a bunch of other colors. For instance, she has this fluorescent yellow and I like to paint with, this is a Hansa yellow and a Hansa yellow light. And then my favorite Daniel Smith Cascade Green. This is my Peacock Blue from Holbein. I have over here on the side, I have some custom colors that I put in, which is a violet permanent, a ultramarine blue, a black, and a couple of other convenience colors over here, like light versions of colors. So um, with just having some of those little, what do you call them? The little pans. So I have a whole box of pans that I keep handy, these little, because you can buy them by, I forget how many, there was like 90 half pans in here. And so that's these little half pans, and that's what fits into here. The nice thing is this set happens to have magnets. So when your paints are on the outside and the little half pans are on the outside, there's a clip to hold them in. But if you're putting paints on the inside here, there's no clip to hold them in. So I like to use the magnet to put on the bottom of the half pan and then put the half pan in there like that. Bloop. And then you can add 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 more colors in there as well. So I haven't completely finished customizing that yet, but so when I get done, what is it? 3 times 7? 7 is 21. I'll have 21 colors in there when I get done. Woot, woot. Fun. I might put a burnt umber in there, but I don't know. I just created burnt umber right in front of you, so I may not need it. Okay. So the edges here softened very nicely around that chocolate. And what I'm going to do is this stark white, I'm just going to use a very light wash. So that means lots of water on my brush, not much paint. And I'm just going to put a little wash over it so that it's not too glaring, that white. You know that it's lighter, but it doesn't have to be white, 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 white. Okay, so I feel like for a sketch, these two are good. Now I haven't put the what are they called? I haven't put the shadows in yet. So we'll do the shadows in just a second. I just want to yummy this one up a little bit more. So let's get some more of that beautiful brown. And this one, maybe I want to do a little bit more of that red. Now, what if I throw some magenta in there? Magenta is a great mixing color. I love magenta for mixing. And then there's like a lot of red in that. Let's grab some of the ultramarine blue to brownify it a little bit more. There we go. And then let's go ahead and do another glaze layer, right? So I'm just sticking another color on top of here and still letting the swirl that's underneath show. Now, there's that glaring white spot right there, and I don't want it to be completely white. So what am I going to do? I'm going to grab just a hint of color, and I'm going to go over it with a hint of color, but it's still the lightest spot on the piece, right? So you're leaving it white until you're very near the end, and then you're just glazing over it slightly. Okay, so that's it for sketching it. Let's go ahead and watercolor. Let's go ahead and drop some shadows in there. So my shadow colors are usually this dark purple. Let's use some of her purple. So this is Christie's purple. Can you see that okay? Let me see, let me see. Yes, you can. I just want to make sure it's still in the camera view. So this is some of Christy Rice's. And then let's take some of Christy Rice's blue right here, phthalo blue. That's kind of too blue, isn't it? All right, let's grab some of the brown, her brown. Yeah, now we're getting like a darker, cool color. Um, maybe a little bit more. I'm gonna come over here and get this purple just because I love my purple so much. Yeah, see, that's what it needed. So there's a difference between a purple that lends toward tends toward red and a purple that tends toward blue. In terms of your shadows, I like the purple that tends toward blue a little bit better. Let's add just a touch more ultramarine. Nice. Now that is way too dark to drop my shadows in. Way too dark to start. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to, um, in the little section that's right above it, so it's hard for you to see. Let's do this. I'm going to take this and put it right here right now, so you can see what I'm doing. I'm taking that purple, dark purple mix, which is too dark to start with, but I'm going to put some of it up here, just what's on my brush. And then I'm going to dip in the water and I want to get it really soupy, right? So when I first put my shadows in, I want them to be soupy, lots of water, very little bit of the color. Okay, so this is where the shadow is right now. It actually comes over top of the corner there. Okay. Now, if I feel it's too purple, what do? I just go back in, I grab a little bit more of the blue or the brown in order to adjust it. But I don't care. Purple's good. Purple is good. Now I've got a shadow coming out here like this. So right now I'm doing the lightest light shadow. It actually comes out like this. There we go. Right? And then we need a shadow for the bonbon down here. Now that this is dry from the time it took to do that, I'm going to go ahead and I don't want too much water on my brush. I want my brush to be relatively dry and pick up this dark color because the shadows tend to be darkest right next to the item that's casting the shadow. And it actually goes a little bit further along like this. So we've got a little bit more. The darkest part of the shadow is going to be right here. There we go. So remember I said I didn't want to add too much water. Hey, what is it? Dayton Dix. Welcome in, welcome in. I didn't want to get too much water in this dark color. I wanted to let that dark color um, stay dark. So that's because I knew I was going to come back and grab the dark color and put the dark color in certain areas like this. It's extra dark on the chocolate right there. Okay. So the chocolate itself, there's a very dark area and I'm dropping the dark on there. There's also extra dark here. So right next to your item. Sometimes it's interesting. You really have to look at shadows because sometimes, oh, hold on a second. It looks like I'm too far up and you're not seeing what you need to see. Hold on. There you go. So sometimes the shadows, there's actually a flash of light right where it hits the table. For instance, this is a white table. So you do need to look at that. I see the people over on YouTube are just beginning to get me back here. There we go. So I'm putting the darkest darks in this area here. So I'm going to put the darkest darks in here and make it right. So the darkest darks right next to the item. So you see how I started with the lighter shadow and then I come back in and I work up to the darker shadow. What's nice is to have a brush like this that has that tip. It is fabulous. Okay, so this actually needs to come out a little bit more because the shape of the bonbon. There we go. Nice. Now I'm going to come in, and what am I going to do? I'm going to feather that edge out, right where the shadow is. So right there where the shadow meets the other shadow, I'm just feathering the edge so that they can sort of blend with each other. I just have water on my brush like that, not too much, just enough to help the feathering, right? So we want to soften those edges and have that edge sort of go into the background. You have to be careful what colors you're using if you want to do this feathering technique, because certain colors like an alizarin crimson is staining, it's called. And so a staining color um, actually will sometimes not come up as much as you want it to come up. So sometimes with an alizarin crimson or a permanent rose, you have a hard time getting that edge to feather unless you do it while it's still wet. But you get to know that over time. That's why you play and experiment like we're doing now, right? Because that's how you learn things like that. Okay, cool. So I just feathered those out. And for now, I think that's good enough for a sketch. That's the idea. We're sketching here. We're not trying to make finished artworks. We're playing. And I think it's important to know to grab your gorgeous colors and just play, 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 play. So now let's play with the, okay, we can do this cup, this this little cup right here with the candies in it. That one's fun to do. Or we can do this cup with the marshmallows in it. So you tell me, I'm watching the chat to see which one y'all would like to do. If you want to do the Demitasse cup and saucer, or if you want to do the cordial glass with the little sweethearts. So we're going marshmallows or sweethearts. I'm letting you decide which one we want to do. Which one? Which one? We got this one. We got this one. The marshmallow. Yeah, that's fun, right? Oh, I just love those pink. I saw a picture that someone had taken of a hot chocolate in a mug with these heart marshmallows, and I freaked out. I was like, that is so cool. And I looked up immediately online where I could get those pink marshmallows because I love marshmallows. And hey, pink heart marshmallows? What? What? Okay, in the mouth. I paid like 15 bucks to get them here, but whatever. Now I can make myself some hot chocolate and put cute little heart marshmallows in it. Oh, I'm so excited. Okay, so let's pick this one up. That was fun. I like doing the chocolates. And what I liked is that it showed you how to mix your browns, which I think is fabulous. Now, even though we're working with the marshmallows, I'm going to put some of these conversation hearts, they call them out. They can't call them sweethearts. They have to call them conversation hearts because sweethearts is trademarked by the Necco company or the other folks that own them now. Oh, they're so cute. So I'm just going to put some of these out so that I can eat some while we're doing this. Yeah, sweethearts. Let's see, there are a couple more here like that. Let's see, what does this one say? This one doesn't have a message on it. Okay, I'm not going to eat that one. All right, enough eating. Let's get this one off of here. That was fun. Okay, so this one, first we're going to sketch it, right? Then we're going to paint it. So let's start with, mm, these are so sweet and delicious. I'm loving it. Now, if I'm going to use markers, if I'm going to do something like the plate and the cup, I start out with a light color, so I might start out with a yellow on this surface. The only thing is, if I start out with yellow, you're not going to be able to see it. So, but that's what I do. I start out with the lightest color to do the basic outline, except that, of course, the hearts are pink. So I would take the pink and outline the hearts in pink, right? Because it's the same color. But because you're not going to see the yellow, what I'm going to do instead is we're going to use the Sailor Fude pen, and we're going to do it just like if I were on a sketch. What do they call it? Urban sketching. So this is the Fude pen by Sailor, and it has a bent nib. Can you see that? The top of the nib is bent. Isn't that cool? What that means is that when I'm drawing, I can get different size lines. So I can get a thick line like this just by using the flat part of the nib. I can lift the nib up a little bit with my wrist. And that way I'm not putting as much of the nib on the paper. And then I can lift it up a lot and just use the tip. Then what's happening is I'm getting different size lines, but I'm getting different size lines from the same fountain pen. It's amazing, amazing, fantastic for doing urban sketching. And again, it's the Sailor Fude. And I put the Rohrer and Klingner sketch ink in it. Okay, so I'm going to put this image right here and we're going to sketch it. Now I'm using permanent ink, so whatever goes down, oh well. I'm not going to worry about it because we're sketching, right? And we're having fun. All right. Actually, before I do this, I can use a pencil. Let's just use a pencil. Let's be easy on ourselves, right? So here's a 2B pencil. This is just like, you'd have in school. So let's start with the 2B pencil. We've got the edge. I'm going to draw the cup first. So we've got the front edge of the cup comes like this around. And then we've got right here on the edge, we have a heart. And there's the top of the heart. And then it comes around like this. The nice thing about doing sketching like this is that it will really help your power of observation. There we go. Oops. Round like this. The more you do it, the better you'll get at sketching. Okay. And then it comes down and then over like this because there's another one right here. Comes around like that. And then it's going to come up like this. Oop. Not so much a heart. It's a good thing I used a pencil. So I could go back in there and do some erasing, right? Okay. And then this goes down like that and then around in there. There we go. Still be afraid to just work it out and figure it out on the fly. They did make erasers for a reason. Actually, Becky Cow teaches you that. You start with a pencil and then you move on to going over top of it with the Fude pen. Now, this is the Tombow Mono Zero, they call it. It's a little tiny eraser. So when I need to get into tight spaces, I use this. All right. Oh, that is so fun to see to see these. Now there's a little bit of a shade in there. Okay. And those are going to be pink and they're going to look gorgeous. This comes around this way, and then this comes around this way. And then you can see it back behind them here. There. So that's the top of the cup. Like I said, you can get this imagery, you can get this image on my website if you want to print it off and try this yourself. Okay, let's just fix that just a little bit. There we go. Ah, there it is. And then right below here, let's do this. And it's a demitasse cup. So it's kind of a small cup, right? Oh, and then over here, it comes down. It slightly comes in like that. Oh, that doesn't look very good. The power of observation. Come on. Come on. Sometimes what you observe and what your hand draws, what your brain thinks it's doing, yeah, it takes some practice to get them to like synchronized swimming, right? Okay, there we go. There we go. There we go. That's basically what the cup looks like. Okay, and then the handle comes out here. The handle goes like this, and then it comes around, and then it comes down like that. That's the inside of the handle. Now we've got the outside of the handle, comes around like this, down, and then it has this little loop like that. There you go. Now we've got a cup. A cup. It's a cup. Okay. 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 We're cooking with gas. Then there's the dish behind it. So the dish behind it starts right about here, comes down and around. Wah! And the front part is what's called foreshortened. So in other words, it's going to look like it's more round toward the back, and it's going to, wow, you're really good. Oh, Salem, thank you. And then, so it's going to look like it's bigger toward the back, and then it's going to look shallower in the front right here. That's just a basic precept of drawing. Now we have a little heart right here. Oh my gosh, this is so cool. So let's put the heart in there. Like that. And then actually it comes down and then around and then up in here like that. There it is. I'm going to fix that just a little bit because it's too close to the edge of the paper. So as an artist, I get to, I can modify it to fit on the page, right? There it is. There's the heart. Ah, it's so cute. It's actually a little more foreshortened. So what that means is that this part right here actually is just a little bit shorter right there. There we go. Bloop, bloop. Okay, and so the platter comes around the back like this, and then it comes off of here like this. Rah. You know what my dad used to say? My father worked for the US government, and he'd say, good enough for government work. So this side was not synchronous. It went out just a little bit too far. So let's bring this one more in like that. So this is where you can look and sort of fix at this stage, fix your, ah. And then this will have to come a little bit more like that. Okay, close enough. And the cool thing about this is that, of course, it has these flowers on the cup and here. So I'm just going to do a basic outline of the flowers. Of course, you could take a long time and do it, but we're not here for that. I'm just getting a basic feel for them. There we are. There's another one over here. It's going to come in here. Another one. I'm not going to take the time to do all of this. I'm just showing you what I would normally do is observe and draw. Observe and draw. And then this one comes up like this. And then there's something in here. It just comes like this. There's another, these are irises, it looks like that somebody, these are painted in Japan. Japan, they're so pretty. I guess if you're doing flowers all the time, then it's a lot easier to just whip them out, right? Hey, Mustang Patty, welcome in, welcome in. Good to see you. It's been a while. Been a while. I appreciate you coming in. We're just having a little Valentine's party here where I'm taking some Valentine's themed images. This happens to be jet puffed marshmallows that are pink hearts. Oh my gosh, they're so cool. I love them and they're so tasty. So I put a bunch of them in this Demitasse cup right here. And then, let me show you like that, Demitasse cup and saucer. And then I took a photograph. So this photograph is available on my website. If you go to deetsart.com, then you can find that photograph and download it for yourself and follow along or do it, try this later for yourself. It's fun, right? For something that's Valentine's themed. Uh, that's a little wonky, but that's okay. That's because this should come from here. There. That's why it looked wonky. Okay. And of course there's greenery, but I don't have to draw the greenery in. I'm not going to do the flowers here right now because that'll be painful for you to sit there and wait for me to do that. But suffice it to say, flowers go here to match, right? Now, the edge of this has, it's a little bit yellow. Oh, before we go to the painting, let's use the fude for the sketching. Oh, this is like the best part. Here, I'm going to move this up a little bit so you can see it a little more easily. Make sure that's in the middle. These are so tasty. Y'all, get yourself some Brock's conversation hearts. Mm, 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 mm. Okay, I don't want to smudge the ink, so I'm going to start from the top and the left. If you're left-handed, start from the right. All right, and that's how you can prevent smudging. So here we go. Now we go ahead and draw these in. Once you've got your basic outlines, right? Don't worry about the pencil line. What you can do is afterwards, you can go back and you can erase any pencil lines that show. Okay. And I get the back of the, now I'm not using black. The color I'm using is called Lily and it's a kind of a brown. It's a brown. I prefer to use the brown myself um, rather than the black, but sometimes I'll go for the black. But when I'm like doing this kind of urban sketching stuff, I like to use the brown. There's the edge of it, like that. Oh, fun. Once you start doing the sketch part of it, that's when things really start to, like they begin to come alive, right? I remember I said you can adjust the heaviness of the line by my husband brought me gummy bears. Right, Salmon's girl? We have to have our candy right now. Candy! I already ate the chocolate. Now I'm on to the conversation hearts. I bought them all for myself. Because at the moment, I don't have a husband or sweetheart, but that's okay. I have my art. Oh, the bane of any man for an artist, female artist, is like, uh-huh, you're gonna come second after my art. Sorry, that's just the way it is. So I am incredibly happy for Valentine's Day that I get to spend it with y'all doing art and eating candy. You can't ask for much better than that. Oh my gosh. Okay, now I could start on the flowers, but I'm afraid when I'm let's see, top of handle is little upside in photo. I'm not sure what you're talking about. I don't know if you're talking about the brush or something else, or before I adjusted the size. It could have been that. Thank you though, over on YouTube. So I'm going to use the Fude pen, and instead of doing the flowers first, I want to come up here, right, over to the right and up, and make the edge of the saucer, because otherwise I could smear the flowers when I come back up here. So you do need to bear that in mind. And this is I'm considering it like an urban sketch. So the lines are not, they're not even, they're all wavy. All right. It's okay because we're sketching. All right. And then I'm gonna come in here for the flowers and just follow my lines. This is the easy part. The hard part is, I think, doing the sketch with the pencil. But at least with an eraser, my favorite eraser, besides this Tombow Mono, which is a small. Notice how it's a white eraser. Oh, thank you, Omir. Said excellent work. Bless you. Thank you. So this Tombow Mono Zero has that tiny white eraser. So I like the white erasers myself. Now, I did show you last week, if you're drawing with white pencil on black paper, you may want to consider using a black eraser. There is such a thing as a black eraser, and that's so that the little bits of the white eraser don't get into your embedded in the paper. There we go. There's some little marks there. Okay. So not bad, not bad. Pretty quick, pretty quick. There. The wash part is almost like a anticlimax with this, right? Thanks for the hearts over on YouTube, because you'll have spent so much time drawing it out and then doing your outlines, and you're like, okay, I'm done. But no, we get to use the color after this. Okay, there we go. So these are the pink marshmallows right here. Lovely. Okay. And that is what we're working from right there. Note, I want you to notice before we start putting color in. Ah, thank you, Salmon's girl. She said, nice. Um, the pink is not just one color pink, right? Again, we have shadows. So here, this area is shadowed. This area is light. There's a little shadow right here because the marshmallow goes down like this. This area surprisingly is darker, and this area is light, and then it gets really dark down here. So bear those in mind. This is light right here, light pink, and then this is a dark pink. So of course I'm going to start with the light pink. I'm just going to put the the picture is out of frame, I'm afraid, but like I said, you can grab this picture off my website and then um, print it out for yourself. Okay, so um, it's up there so I can see it. Let's work with some pink. Some pink. Oh, I ate so much candy so fast that now I have the hiccups. Well, I guess I just have to eat more candy. Um, so let's just take a pale pink, and that's comes in the Christy Rice set. So we're just gonna put pale pink over this whole thing, right? Because we're gonna start from the lightest color and then build up the darks. So all of the marshmallows, we're gonna just put pink right there. Remember with watercolor to use plenty of water, plenty of water. And I'm going right over top of those lines that I drew. The nice thing about this Roller and Klinger ink, this sketch ink, is that it dries lickety split, y'all. It is awesome. Okay, make sure you have plenty of water on your brush. So you just have a nice pale pink to start. All right, now I'm gonna do this one down here as well. Plenty of water, pale pink. Lovely. Now, that's just, we're gonna let those dry so we can begin to come in and deepen them, right? And then, um, let's see, let's work on the flowers right now. So we've got a yellow and red over here and a purple and pinkish over here. Now, I'm going to start by putting in the little stamen in the middle in this fluorescent yellow from the Christy Rice. It comes in the Christy Rice set. And she's had people say to her before, yeah, but that color's not light fast, is it? Because it's a fluorescent. But you know what? We are joy chasing. That's what she likes to say. See, this brush is a joy chaser brush. So we are not worrying about that right now. We are just relaxing, having fun, experimenting, playing, sketching, no pressure. Okay. So it doesn't matter, does it? It's perfectly fine. If you want a nice bright color in there, knock yourself out. Okay. Let's get, let's start with a wash of this pale orange. And we're just going to put the pale orange all over the leaves, right? Pale orange, pale orange. Because then we'll come back in and we'll put the red over top. We'll darken it. So we're just going to start with pale. Pale is good. So it's nice that in her, hey, the creative Graham, welcome in over on Whatnot. Um, with the Christy Rice set, she gives you a pale pink and a pale orange that come in with it. Okay. So very nice, very nice. Makes it easy for you to lay down, especially if you're a beginner, to lay down those lighter colors to start with. Okay, this one is purple. Uh, so I have a convenience color here, which is a light purple. When I say convenience color, that means that it comes out of a tube. So I'm not adding white, although I have a little bit of Chinese white here. I'm not adding white to my purple in order to get a light purple. I actually squeezed it right out of a tube. This is Holbein watercolor, a lilac. And when you look at the pigments that are in here, it's a couple of pigments, but the one of them is PW6, and PW6 is titanium white. So they've made a color that is a pale version of purple, and because they've added some white, which means that the color is a little bit opaque. It's not as transparent as your regular purples. Okay, actually, I want to put it over here, and I want to add a little bit of magenta. This is, me and my crazy mixing, right? So what I'm trying to do is get kind of a light purple, but not quite as dense as that. Okay, so what am I going to do? I'm just going to paint over the whole thing with purple. Be careful not to get your purple in with your yellow. And the reason for that is when purple and yellow mix, they create brown. So you don't want your purple and your yellow mixing, but purple and yellow are across from each other on the color wheel and they look great next to each other. They look terrific next to one another. Okay, cool. So there's some of the purple there, just our base layer. And we're going to let that dry so that I am going to go back. The interesting thing is in this photograph, like, see how this is just this beautiful translucent china. And the interesting thing is when you photograph it, it has a slight green tint because of the greenery around it, right? So we are going to make the plate like barely there green, barely. Lots of water, lots and lots and lots of water, and a very light green. There's a little bit of convenience light green over here, but lots of water because we barely want it to show, right? That's almost too much. More water, more water. We just want it to barely hint at being green. So that's the trick that a lot of people who are new to watercolor, don't realize. Yeah, just especially in the beginning, you're much better off starting out super light, barely there with your color and building up the layers than going in with a bold color. Don't do that. Go in with these super soft colors to start and just keep adding more water, more water, more water. So that is just the light green plate. And let's do this. Um, I want this to be a little bit different. I want the Demitasse cup to be slightly different than that same green that we just made. So let's just add a touch of this crazy, crazy fluorescent yellow that's like so fabulous. Lots of water, lots of water, lots of water, because I want it to barely, too much water. That's why I usually hold a paper towel in my hand when I'm working in watercolor so I can dab off when I have too much water. There we go. That has that little bit of that crazy uh, fluorescent in it. I'm going to do that here too on the handle. So it just has a slightly different color than the background. Now, of course, I'm going to go in on the background and I'm going to add shadowing, right? So the shadow will separate it from the cup. There you go. And then, of course, inside here, but inside the cup, it's a little darker. So let's add a little bit of this darker green to that same color we're working with. And let's darken it a little bit. You're going to say, well, it doesn't look that dark. You're right. It doesn't look that dark. That's okay, because we'll just add more layers to darken it. There we go. So there's our cup. Nice. Now, I want to ask you, on the color wheel, no, let me find my color wheel. Of course, I just found like 5 color wheels, but they're in packages. That's all right. I guess I'll have to take this one because my other one's not, must have fallen down. Okay, so here's our a color wheel, and the opposite of red on the color wheel, so there's red, is green. So red and green look terrific next to each other. Okay, now think about pink. Let's say this red violet is going toward pink, right? The opposite of it on the color wheel is a yellow green, isn't it? So I want you to be aware of that because when you're painting, you don't want to mix those 2 colors together because the opposite colors on the color wheel give you variations of brown and gray, but they look terrific next to each other. So here we're going to be working with pinks and reds in here. And then our cup has that slight green tint to it. So that's going to make it the colors harmonious. They're going to make them talk to each other in a nice way. Okay, so let's go in, and these are dry now. So let's begin deepening that pink. So we have some of that pink from the from here, right? Pinkish, purplish. There's a beautiful magenta in here. So nice. We've got a nice magenta going. So I'm going to look at my picture. So I've got some darkness here. Okay, so we've got quite the pink here. We've got, it's very light over there. There we go. And then we've got some nice pink going over here on this side. And we've got extra darkness back in, yeah, and extra darkness right there. Okay, so we're beginning to build some dimension on those. Let's get this one underneath here. We actually have a little extra darkness right in there. So I just put in it some extra magenta. And then let's grab some water and darken this a little bit right here. Oh, fun. Nice. Now there is a little bit, this is not all light over here. Let me show you right there. It's got a little bit of darkness going on there. So I'm just sort of following along with my picture to decide where to put, where to darken my colors in here. Okay, well now that's good. This one over here, let's grab a little bit of that pink and a little bit of this pink and some water. Because it's definitely pretty dark over in here. And it's much, much lighter on this side right here. There we go. Grabbing some dimension there. Okay, now let's go back to the flowers. And I want to deepen some of that purple, but I want the purple with the red in it, not the purple with the blue in it, because that's what I'm looking at right there in the picture. And I'm actually just going to, a little bit of water. That water control is important when you're working with watercolors. Okay, so what they did was they just darkened that little bit that's in the area near the base of the leaves, the petals rather. There we go. So I just added a little bit more purple to darken that. Now I can see this pink is sitting there and it has a lot of water in it. So I'm just gonna use the edge of my paper towel, pick up some of that pink. I can always go back in and add it back. It's just, it looks like there was a lot of water there. And if you want it to dry in a reasonable amount of time, you can pick up some of that extra water. Now the other flower here has a bunch of red on it. Ooh, and there's a beautiful red in this Christy Rice set. So we've got the magenta here that we were just using together with the purple and the pinks. And then this one right here is a red. So I'm going to grab some red. I'm going to drop it in here. Wow. Okay, that is dark. Dark, 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 dark. So I'm adding a little bit more water to it. And now we're going to come in here and add that. And then they put a line in the middle. And then they put a few dots. The nice thing about this brush is that it has quite the nice tip to it. And then here we go. There's some more there and some more dots. Fun. Well, that is coming together. And here, there's a line and a little bit more, and then there's a bunch of dots. Okay. Thank you to the Japanese artisans who did these original flowers on this Demitasse cup. There we go. So we've got that flower going. There's a little bit more red in there in the background. Okay. Something fun there. And then let's get a little bit more of that purple going. Actually, I think I'll put some of the red in with the purple. I don't know if you can see that right there. Purple, red, to deepen the purple. And then we're going to come in here on the edges, put a line in the middle, do some dots. So it's essentially the same design as what's in the other flower. It's just that we're doing it here with the purple dots. And over here, we got the line, purple dots. Simple dimple, right? Simple dimple, simple dimple. Oh, they put a few little lines on this one, a little something different. And then we'll put a few dots up there, a little more color. This one, we got a few lines in here too. And then some dots. There we go. So that's just a basic feel of the flowers there. You make it look so simple. Ah, sorry, Salmon's girl. Remember, we're sketching. We're just sketching. I'm not doing anything terribly, complicated. I'm just trying to get the feel because we're just sketching right now. But I feel like it's important to sketch. As a matter of fact, I was doing a bunch of sketching um, yesterday. And so these are some of my sketches where I'm just playing with color to see how the color works. I'm scribbling, right? And then I was like, hey, I kind of like those. Okay, I'm going to make those into paintings. But I literally was just experimenting. So, you know, I think it's important to give yourself time to experiment. And someone over um, on YouTube said, what's your favorite color? So I'm going to show you my favorite color right now. It is the Holbein Peacock Blue when it comes to watercolor. That's my favorite color. And I'm going to show you what it looks like because I have it right here. I made a pan with my spare pans for my Christy Rice palette. Here's what it looks like. Wow, right? It's amazing. So I'm just going to pop it in here as just for now as a shadow so you can kind of see what the color looks like. Man, isn't that color gorgeous? Peacock Blue from Holbein. That's my favorite watercolor color. Now that's very pale. Normally when I use it, I'm using it a lot stronger. So let's put a stronger bit right here so you can see like how, to me, it just reminds me of the colors of the ocean in the Bahamas. And I just love the waters in the Bahamas. That's where I got some of the shells from for the workshop that we did last week, was when I was in the Bahamas on a boat. And you would look down and shells would be right there at your feet. But that is my favorite watercolor color, is the Holbein Peacock Blue. There it is. So I used it somewhere. Okay, so let's go back to, there's some greenery here back behind these, right? So let's pick up, this is the green that Christy Rice has in her palette. I'm going to show you right here. It's very olivey. And there's also a teal over here. So when you put the olive and the teal together, you get something that looks more like a believable green. Pretty, thank you. So let's, actually, I want a green that has a little more teal in it. According to what I'm looking at here, you see how that looks more tealy on the Demitasse cup? So we're just gonna come here and up like that. And then we're gonna bring some over here. And this is just little wisps coming down here. And then over on this side here. Now what I'm doing is I'm not putting the side of my hand on top of here. I'm just, I have my little pinky out and I'm putting it down so that only the edge of my pinky is touching the table. Let's do this here. I'm gonna do this so it looks like it's coming from over there. And what else? They have something that looks like this coming from here and here. And so I'm going to do a little bit of that here as well. Why don't we do one from here? Why not? Okay, that's fun. Paper. Okay, flower gazer. Um, I'm working with watercolor. So I am on a watercolor paper right now. And I'll show you in just a second what that is. Yoop. I'm just focusing so I can get these leaves in here. This is the paper that we're working on. This is my studio, especially when I'm just sketching and experimenting. It's the Canson XL watercolor paper, cold pressed, so it has a little bit of texture to it. It's 140 pound, nice and heavy, 9 by 12, 30 sheets, incredibly good value. And I will be linking it there. I'll have a link to this paper in the description of the video when the workshop is over on YouTube. I'll go back and add that in because this is the paper that literally just bought this week as well because I go through it so much. You know, I just play and play and play and play, experiment, swatch, all that kind of stuff on this Canson paper. It's great. At 140 pounds, it's fabulous. And 30 sheets is something like, I don't know, 12, $15, something like that. So I think it's very well worth it. Okay, so let's go back to, I want to let that green dry a little bit and then I'll come back in and do some more on it um, to deepen some of the areas. Let's go back to the pink, the pink. See how this one underneath, that's coming straight from our magenta here, is much pinker than these other ones. So I want to take the areas that are in my photograph here that are a little bit darker and go ahead and put some of that heavier magenta pink in there. So like this area right here. And then this area over in here. I just want to make it more pink. Of course, we're artists, so you can go hog wild and make it as dark and as pink as you like, right? Because we're artists and it's our art, and hey, we can do that. But I like the magenta off of here is quite bright. See, you'll see here, quite bright there. I'm just going to do that right in there. And then this part right up in here, a little more pink in there. Why not? I like to generally put at least 3 layers of color on, and then that way I feel like I'm building up some visual texture that way. Now let's come over here to this one, and I can see it's like much darker in here. A little more color, darker in there. And it's darker over here. Okay. And I'm just going to feather this out, feather it out. So instead of using my brush up and down like this, I just put it on its side and feathered it to get the color to come across. And a little bit went right there, so I'm picking it up. All right. So let's see what that looks like. See, like I said, it always looks better on camera than it does to your eyes in person. Hysterical. All right. This green should be dry enough to where I can go in and put a little bit more darkening in there. So let's just take some of the straight teal right here. Straight teal, why not? And get an extra water on my brush and come up in here and darken some of those areas. Because they just did that to, add interest to the leaves. This would be the second layer of color, right? I'm just looking to be sure that my hand is not going to sit on something that's going to cause a problem there. There we go. So I'm adding the straight teal just to sort of get some variety there. So you see there how it helps the leaves to give them a little more variety, a little more dimension when you're doing multiples. Okay. I'm actually looking and I'm like, oh, I want it to be, yeah, let's deepen that pink right there. That's what I want. That's what I want. Why not? And then a little bit deeper there. Okay, that's looking better. Now let's talk about again doing the shadows, because in terms of the marshmallows, in terms of the marshmallows in there, and I'm going to eat one because they are just so good. Oh, marshmallow. Oh, mm. Okay. Um, when you look at this cup, you can see there's shadow color underneath here, right? And then starting from here, there's shadow over here, and there's a deeper shadow from the marshmallow right there, right? So let's look at shadows for those. Now, if you weren't here earlier, I'm going to show you what I did to create my shadows. So this is just a palette, a ceramic palette, and I put in here to create that. I put some of that deep purple. Okay, so that's a purple deep. Then I'm going to grab some blue. So this is ultramarine blue. Put those two together. Now you can either go with black, like I could grab a little bit of black to put in there. And that's a cool shadow. Or I could come over here and grab a little bit of this brown and put the brown in there. And now I'm beginning to get a warmer shadow. So it just depends. When you paint it for a long time, then you begin to understand cool versus warm. Cool colors tend to look like they're further away from you. Warm colors look like they're closer to you. Think of a landscape like when I was in the Blue Ridge Mountains, and the mountains in the background when we would take a picture, they were misty, and instead of being green, they were a light blue, like pale, pale blue, all fading into gray. And then the mountains that were close to us were dark, dark, dark green. And then what was right next to us was a bright, bright, bright green. So think in terms of coolness versus warmness, how far back it is, it's going to be cooler. Closer to you, it's going to be warmer. And so right now, I just mixed kind of a neutral grayish color right there. Let's add a little bit more blue. And I actually want to add a little bit more brown. Whoa, too much brown. Oopsies. Let's go with a little more blue. There we go. So the blue, this is ultramarine blue, and then some of the brown in the Christy Rice set that helps you to come up with a gray. But I like my shadows to have a little purple in them, so I added a little bit of purple as well. But you know, a lot of people just use black and they'll water down the black to create a gray. That's fine. It's just I like my shadows to have a that purple tint to them. So here, this is the mass tone. This is the darker. I'm going to bring it up here and add more water. And I always start with the lighter shadow and then move into the darker shadow, right? So the shadow was back here and it kind of came around like that. There you go. So there's some shadow right there. And it's going to go off the page as well. So more shadow there. You see how that there's more life to a shadow like that when you have some purple, in my opinion, when you have some purple and blue. And actually, I had mentioned earlier that I took the sketching course, and she does it every month. So you can join it at the beginning of any month. And I'll put a link to her Instagram, Becky Cao, CAO. And so that's one of her favorite mixes as well for gray. I tend to put a little more purple in it than she does, but you know, that's you develop what it is that you prefer as you do it, right? So I've got a shadow right in here, and it kind of comes around like this, and that's because of the heart. What? There's a little shadow cast from the heart there, the heart marshmallow. All right, and then of course the back here there is in shadow. And this is the back of the plate. So I put down the green of the plate, but now I'm just going in and I'm adding shadow to it right over top. This is called glazing, where you take a color and you put it right over top of another color. Okay. And it's actually very dark right here. So I'm going to grab some of the darker mix that I made earlier and just sort of drop it in here, tapping it. And it'll spread and do its thing. And then there's a little bit of extra darkness right along here. And the reason for that is that the plate is not flat. The plate is curved on the side right here. So naturally the top edge is going to be slightly darker. So let's add like a little bit more here in this area where it's going to be slightly darker because there's a curve to the plate, right? The dish. And I'm going to feather that. So what do I do to feather it? Just add a little bit of water and feather that edge, right? Woohoo! While it's still damp. Got it. Nice. And do that there too. Just feathering, adding a little bit of water so that I don't want it to be really obvious where that line is around there. Okay. Now inside here, we need to put some shadow up inside there, right? Because these are casting a shadow on the inside of the cup. There we go. Okay. Nice. And the handle has a shadow right on the inside here, right? The inside of the handle will have a shadow. There you go. Actually, a little bit more there. There we go. And there's a little bit of shadow at the back right there. And then you can let that dry and decide, oh, do I need some more? Actually, I can see I need more of the darker version right down in here. There we go. A little bit more of the darker in there. Tap, 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 and that'll deposit some of that. Oh, that is so fun. Now, normally there is a shadow right here where the cup meets the table. In this case, there's a light shadow and it kind of comes around like this. And it not only is on the plate, whoops, I'm messing this up. That's okay. It's okay. It's not only on the plate, it's a little bit on the cup too, because the cup is curved. So let's throw a little bit up in here because it goes with the curve of the cup, like that. So that's how you're going to build your dimension, is really looking at where are the shadows as they come up next to, butt up next to your various items here, and shade them appropriately. All right, so I'm going to call that done for right now, because we can sit there and agonize over our artwork, but I think it can be helpful sometimes if you time yourself when you're going to do a sketching session, or like Becky Cow goes out to a cafe and she times herself. She has 2 hours. She has 2 hours to order her coffee, get her croissant or whatever kind of deliciousness she's going to have, and then sit there, and she first does her pencil sketch, then she does her sketching with her Sailor Fude pen over top of it, like we did here. And then she'll use her watercolors, her travel watercolor set, and add the color. And then she'll take a bunch of photographs while she's there for her reference. And then when she gets back home, if there's any additional that she wants to um, darken things or change the coloration, she does that once she's home by looking at her reference pictures. So like I said, I'm going to put a link to Becky Cow's Instagram in the description of the video on YouTube so that y'all can look her up. And I highly recommend, she has two types of classes. She has the beginner class for beginner urban sketching, and then her intermediate class. And I took the intermediate class. And even though I've been doing art for 20 years, let me tell you, she challenged us. Yes, she did. Okay, so I'm going to start. Um, Oh, so I just want to say thank you for joining me for the workshop. Um, I appreciate it, and I wish everybody a happy Valentine's Day.